What are the most common Urssaf mistakes made by foreigners?
This is not going to disappear by itself. You cannot just hide and see what is going to happen. Trust me on this one. Urssaf is never going to let you go.
Could I owe Urssaf even if I make no profit?
You might pay 1,200 euros a year minimum, even though you do not make any profit. They will probably freeze your bank account and take the money by themselves. Hello guys, and welcome to the French Tax Online channel. Today we are in my very own office, in the French Tax Online main office, and we are with Sam, who just joined us from Texas, and this is her very first tax season at French Tax Online. Sam is a US person, and she has been working in the US a few years as a tax advisor, which is quite convenient, don't you think? And we've been talking with Sam about a lot of stuff, and she's been asking me, but Giro, what is Urssaf? And I was, starting to explain. I was like, wait, you know what? We're going to do a video about this because I'm sure that you're not the only one to wonder about Urssaf. So guys, this video is about Urssaf in France, what this is. Is it a tax? Do you have to pay for it? Who pays for Urssaf? When do you pay for Urssaf? Etc, etc. Sam is going to ask me all the questions she's got about this very fascinating topic, and I'm going to do my best to reply this. Okay, Sam, we can go now. Let's go.
It's really great to be here. Happy to have joined the team, and I have a lot of questions as an expat. So today I'd like to ask a few questions about Urssaf, which is, from what I understand, related to social contributions. My first question is, could you explain just what Urssaf is, and is it a tax?
Urssaf is not a tax. It's more of a social organism, which is collecting social charges, right? It means Union pour le recouvrement de la sécurité sociale, right? Et des allocations familiales. Very long name, and I'm quite proud that I remember for it. And this is a global organization which is collecting a lot of money from very different people, right? So it's not a tax. It's just an organism collecting money. And this is not the French state directly. Urssaf is another type of organism.
Who has to deal with Urssaf in France?
Pretty much everyone working. So if you're self-employed, you have to pay Urssaf. If you have a micro-entreprise, you have to pay Urssaf. If you have to pay the CSM tax, then the CSM is managed by Urssaf as well. If you have employees, you have to pay Urssaf for your own employees as well. And then if you are an individual and then you have, employee working at home, gardener, etc., then you might work with Urssaf as well. If you have a nanny, you might work with Urssaf as well. So pretty much everyone is dealing with Urssaf, right? I would say that pretty much the only people that do not deal with Urssaf is people that, if you're just an employee, then you don't pay for it directly, of course, because your employer is paying for the Urssaf fees, but you're not paying it yourself. But in the end, you are paying Urssaf charges already.
So does Urssaf apply even if I'm not French or I'm not living in France?
Well, if you're not living in France full-time, by that I mean if you're just a non-resident visiting the country, or if you just own a second home, there are not a lot of chances that you would work or owe anything to Urssaf, because you are not employed, you don't have an income, most of the time, no. If you do not live in France full-time, I don't believe so. But as soon as you do live in France, then yes, you might as well pay Urssaf. Again, if you have a micro-entreprise, if you have your own business, if you have employees, if you have people working at home, if you pay the CSM, yes. So I would say that as soon as you live in France and have a regular life, then yes, you might at some point be working with Urssaf.
What types of income are subject to Urssaf contributions?
Of course, basically every employee pay Urssaf contributions, right? We've got the employee charges and the employer charges. So the employee charges are deducted from your gross salary, and on top of it, the employer would pay the employer charges, right? Micro-entrepreneur, they have to pay Urssaf as well. Self-employed person, they pay their own Urssaf charges. The CSM tax is actually managed by Urssaf, so this is an Urssaf charge.
How much does Urssaf usually cost? Could you give me some realistic percentages?
Yeah, absolutely. Employees pay something around 25% social charges on their gross income. It's not only Urssaf because there's Urssaf and pension, right? Urssaf being 12 or 13, something like this. Micro-entrepreneur, depending on what they are doing, but if you are a service provider, it's 24% of your gross turnover at the moment. If you are a self-employed person, then it's 40% of your net salary. And the CSM tax, I just did a video about this a few days ago. It is still 6.5% of your global income. So it really depends on your situation. I cannot give you one magic number for everyone. It doesn't work this way.
Could I owe Urssaf even if I make no profit or pay no income taxes?
Yeah, actually, yeah. Because Urssaf might apply for people that have an activity or something, and still, even though they do not make any profit, they might owe Urssaf. Let's make an example. If you are renting a property, and if you are considered as a LMP, loueur meublé professionnel, then you might pay Urssaf charges the minimum amount, like 1,200 euros a year as a minimum, even though you do not make any profit. Exactly the same for the CSM tax. Again, you're not working in France, you do not make profit in France, but you still live in France. You are costing money to the French social security system, and therefore you have to pay, which is very logical in my opinion. That said, you guys have to remember that all these examples I'm giving are triggered by something, right? You would never receive a Urssaf bill without a reason. If you receive a bill from the Urssaf, it means that you did something to make it happen. You are registered as an MP, you are registered as a taxpayer, etc., etc. Okay? Urssaf bills do not arrive randomly. Okay? Do not worry.
How and when are Urssaf contributions paid?
Again, it depends on your situation, right? So employers pay them monthly. If you are a micro-entrepreneur, it's either monthly or quarterly. The CSM tax is quarterly or yearly. I don't remember really, depending on the situation. If you are having monthly employees, it's monthly as well. Usually monthly or quarterly, depending on the situation.
Why do expats often receive Urssaf catch-up bills?
I think that it's most of the time the two examples I gave you a few minutes ago about the LMNP scheme. So people registered to rent their properties. To them, it's just a second business, right? But in the end, if you are an LMP, you are registered as an LMP, and as soon as you're registered, you have to pay yourself. Even though you make no profit, there will still be a minimum. The other one being the CSM tax, again and again and again. If you are living in France, registered to the French Social Security, then you have to contribute. And if you have no work income, then you are going to pay the CSM tax. Because again, you are a cost to France, and France has to get some contribution back.
What are the most common Urssaf mistakes made by foreigners?
The first one being not being prepared to pay for it, because CSM, for example, is not expected by many people. And the thing is, expats would receive it a few months after they would send their tax return. So, it's not coming from the French government. It's not the tax office. It's the Urssaf. So they're a bit lost. Some people think it's a scam because a lot of scams are made by post, which is true. So I would say that a lot of people do not expect this, and they are a bit, frightened, or they believe it's a scam, so they don't reply. The second mistake is not replying, not doing anything. It doesn't work this way. You have to reply, you have to ask someone, you have to manage it. Maybe you do not owe this, maybe you do not owe this amount, maybe you're not even supposed to pay yourself. but this is not going to disappear by itself. You cannot just hide and see what is going to happen, because trust me on this one, the only thing that's going to happen is going to be a bad news for you, because Urssaf is never going to let you go, never ever. So yes, you have to reply. You have to ask someone, your friend, us, your accountant, anyone, to help you discuss in French. There is a website, there is a messagerie. You can write in French. You can ask questions. They usually reply, and in the end, you will receive an answer. But yes, you have to manage it and reply.
So it's not a good idea to ignore tax notices, definitely.
Never, never. Maybe in some countries it is, but not in France.
What would happen if I ignored Urssaf letters or payments?
They will probably freeze your bank account and take the money by themselves with a little top up, for the convenience cost.
Like penalties and interests.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. They would probably invoice you 10% penalties just for late payments. And they might also invoice you some interest if you're taking too long to pay.
Is there anything in tax treaties that could protect me from Urssaf contributions?
Absolutely not. Because Urssaf are not taxes, they are social charges, social contributions. And it's not a tax for the state itself. This is a social contribution for the social security in France. So it's not related to any tax treaty, right? And you cannot believe that you're not going to pay them because you're American and there is a very nice tax treaty between France and the US. No, this is not working this way. This is not a tax, and there is nothing related to Urssaf in the tax treaty.
How can Urssaf be anticipated, reduced, or avoided legally?
Anticipated, you can ask people that know about this, how much you're going to pay and when you're going to pay for it. Reduced or avoided, well, I would say that you cannot think this way. You can anticipate first, and you can ask someone who knows about the whole taxation system what can be done to not pay this one, or maybe choosing another status which would make you pay less, right? But you cannot avoid it. I mean, at some point, you have to pay some social charges, right? Because all this is costing money. So in the end, someone has to pay for it, okay? And if you consume some services in a country, then you have to pay for it. It's quite logical when we think about it. The question is, maybe you can choose another way which would make you pay less, or let's say in a more efficient way, okay? But you cannot avoid it completely unless you are declaring the wrong thing at the moment, etc., right?
Are there any exceptions to paying Urssaf, or, for example, UK citizens that have made an S1 or A1 form?
Absolutely, yes. This is, again, it's not really managed by Urssaf, these social charges. It's a CGCRDS. And yes, people with an S1 form, they can avoid paying some social charges, uh, for example, on their pension or work income, because the S1 form is an agreement between France and other countries, which is allowing these people to benefit from the French social security without paying more charges, because their own country is going to agree to pay them back to France. Again, only very logical, because they contributed in the system a few years ago in their own country, right? So yes, of course, some people can avoid paying some social charges because there is an agreement, and this is made for it. Yes, some situations are very specific, but in this case, you might need to ask someone to make sure that you aren't in this situation.
Yeah, always good to consult with professionals.
That's what I think. I mean, in my case, I'm not changing the oil of my car myself, even though I know it's very easy. I'm not a car guy, so I don't do it. I just pay someone, and I'm sure it's well done. Pretty much the same for taxes, I believe.
Well, thanks, Géraud, for taking the time to answer my questions.
You're welcome, Sam. Guys, I hope this conversation has been fruitful. It was quite interesting to see all the questions someone not aware of the system can have, because it's very logical in my case, because I'm French, I'm a chartered accountant, and of course I'm talking about Urssaf for 10, 12, 15 years now. If you have more questions, if you have any issue, if you want us to help you with this, of course, we can help you with this. Do not hesitate to reach out to us. We've got everyone ready to help you. Do not forget to keep subscribing and sending FTO to all your friends and expat friends. Thank you very much and see you soon, guys.